What is good, everybody, man? Welcome into the Bluebloods official podcast of FCS Football Central, man. We're live on YouTube, live on social media right now as well, man. So appreciate y'all tuning in. Listen, these Saturday shows have become by far one of my favorite shows we do, man. It's good to get up early, do a little bit of research, get everything going, coach, and we get to do an awesome show, get to come talk to the people. We usually do mailbags, coach, and we're gonna end the show, guys. So we have a main topic for today's show, but at the end of the show we're going to take 20, 30, 45 minutes depending on how long y'all want to go and take questions from the chat, take questions from social media, and just really talk about what you guys want to talk about. But man, we have a interesting topic today, and it just kind of came to me last night, and I texted coach. I said, coach, let's go a different direction with this one. We are going to try to build, each of us separately, it's a fantasy draft, which one of us can build the best FCS football team of all time. And so just the ground rules real quick. These are only players that played at the FCS level. So players like Walter Payton, not eligible, played at Jackson State before the start of FCS in 1978. Also, players like, we didn't do specialists, but Adam Vinatieri played at South Dakota State, but he played there before they joined the FCS. They were D2 at the time. So these players had to play in the FCS. Schools that have left the FCS are still eligible, so you can still pick guys from Appalachian State, Coastal Carolina, all these other schools. So those are our ground rules we're going to go through. We had positional limits, so one quarterback, a running back, two wide receivers. We did an offensive line unit rather than just individual offensive linemen to save on time. And then we have another topic on the show today, man. We're going to talk about which FCS losing season streak could most likely come to an end this year. We're going to get into that. But coach, man, how we feeling on this Saturday morning?
Man, I'm good. Been in the war room. Got my coffee ready. Ready to put this thing on grass, man. Get these guys in the camp. See how it looks.
I like it. And yes, D1 AA does count, but our cutoff was 1978. So that limits, us a little bit because there were some players, in the early 70s and stuff like that, like a Walter Payton or someone that we could have picked. There was also I'm blanking on the guy's name. I think he was a defensive back at Southern that was in like the early 70s too. That was
Blunt,
yeah, Mel
blunt.
Blunt wouldn't be eligible because he wasn't technically playing at the FCS level. So we missed out on some big names and some names that I had to take off my list at one point. But man, coach, let's go ahead and kick this thing off. So I'm going to give you the option as the co-host. Do you want first pick? We start with quarterback. Do you want the first pick of this fantasy draft, or would you want to defer, get the first pick at running back?
First pick.
I figured. Go ahead, man. We all know where you're going with this one. We know where you coach. It's an obvious pick. Go ahead. All you, man.
How, how does that chime go? It's ESPN. Ching ching.
Yeah.
The pick is in. Now, you know where I'm going. I'm going with 5,000 yards, 47 plus TDs, almost 1,000 yards on the ground. Should have won the Heisman that year. So my first pick at the quarterback position, Steve Air McNair. Rest his soul. But with that type of output, that's who we're going to start our team with, Steve Air McNair.
Okay. So because you grabbed him, man, this is going to be so tough. I mean, I can go so many different ways with this pick now. Oh man, because I mean, you can look at someone like a Carson Wentz. You got like a Jimmy Garoppolo. You got Joe Flacco. I mean, they're like, yeah, Armani Edwards from App State. I mean, man, you got some
Mm.
absolute dogs. You got Trey Lance. God, you got even Eric Berrier, a Cole Kelly, who are more recent
Mm.
names. You got Devlin Hodges, who put up record numbers at Sanford. Oh man, this is going to be so tough. Okay, so this is probably going to
Cam
be,
Ward.
yeah, Cam Ward. You also got Lindsey Scott. Oh man, you threw me off on this one. I was hoping to get the first pick. I'm kind of torn between two people, I'll be honest, but I'm gonna go here. I understand that maybe he's not he's not a prototypical quarterback. I like what Mitchell said in the chat. I'm gonna go Armonte Edwards from App State.
Ooh.
I know that, when you're ranking all-time FCS quarterbacks, he, he's probably not number 2 in the all-time
Mhm.
rankings, but when you look at what he did, 2-time player of the year,
For the
back-to-back
numbers.
national champion, 4-time All-American, led App State to that, historic upset over Michigan.
In the big house.
In the big house, 28-2 in conference games, 3 unbeaten seasons to the league title. FCS record holder in career rushing yards, most seasons with 3,000 yards plus, tied with Steve McNair for that. Number 2 career rushing yards for a quarterback, number 4 in career total offense. He does it all. I'm gonna go with Armonte Edwards as my quarterback, man. A little bit of a change up from where I wanted to go, because I think, let's just be honest, everyone in the chat, even who didn't watch FCS football, knew Steve McNair was going to be the first pick. Like, let's be honest. Come on. Everyone knew. But it makes it easy for me. God, I guess on my eye. I'm going to go at running back,
Mhm.
Adrian Peterson,
Mm.
Southern.
Mm.
Um,
Georgia Southern. Yeah.
listen, probably there's an argument that he's probably the greatest FCS running back. There's another option. I don't want to spoil it because I don't know if you picked him, and if he's still on the board, we'll leave him there. But dude, Adrian Peterson, 2 national championships, 3 appearances in the title game, and holds 16 different career records for running backs, coach. Career touchdowns, most games with 100 or more yards rushing. That's 40 games he had 100 or more yards rushing. He set the freshman record with almost 2,000 rushing yards, and he's the all-time leading rusher in Division I with over 6,500 rushing yards, coach. Has 30 school and playoff records, Walter Payton finalist, Hall of Fame, 4-time All-American. I'm taking Adrian Peterson from Georgia Southern at running back.
Good. I had him on the board as well. But with you taking him off, I have to go with a running back who went absolutely insane in 2013. Uh, Terrence West
Oh,
Townsend,
yeah.
41 touchdowns, uh, over 2,000 on the ground. 2013 was his year until he got to the championship game, and they were not going to allow him to run the football. They had everybody they could possibly put up there in a gap,
Yeah.
in a hole. Just wherever. They weren't going to let West get down. But for a kid to put up 41 touchdowns and over 2,500, very impressive. So I feel good about him standing next to my first pick quarterback with 41 touchdowns. I'm gonna put your defense to the test.
I like it. I will say other options that may have looked over. I think Brian Westbrook from Villanova would have been another one.
That would have been my utility guy.
Agreed. That's where I was going. And someone in the chat put they picked Tariq Cohen. Not a bad pick not a bad pick either there. There's so many great running backs. You got a bunch of guys from North Dakota, South Dakota State that could have been on that list. They had a string there through like the mid 2010s where they just had some dogs. I'm
Branch
thinking
kid
like
at
Zinner.
Colgate,
Yeah, for sure.
almost 30 touchdowns.
Let's see. So the question is this for fantasy purposes or a real football game? So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna make a graphic after the show. I'm gonna let y'all vote on the show today, but we're also gonna put it to social media. We're gonna make a graphic with both our teams and let people vote on which team they think would have won the game. And that's what we're gonna do with this. So it is like just project. It's fantasy, but it's also a real football game, man. It's in the middle of June. Why not do it now? So, Coach, you get the first pick at wide receiver. Lots of options for you here. This was probably the easiest position. And
We say we're
guys,
going
just
two, right?
2. So you get to pick your
2 receivers.
first. I'll pick my first, and you will come back to you
Okay.
to get your second. So we'll do it like that. So go ahead, man. Who's your first pick at
Okay.
wide receiver?
My first pick, and I need you to understand why it's the first pick.
Because you're gonna
Just
take him away from me.
because.
That's
No, I'm
why
not
it's the
going.
first pick.
I'm not going where you think I'm going. And the chat may be like, what? But to me, this guy is the greatest receiver of all time. Um, you can go anywhere in the country, and if they're playing football, at some point you're going to hear the phrase, "You got mossed." And I don't think a lot of people realize that he started his career at 1AA with the Thundering Herd. So my first pick at receiver, I'm going Randy Moss.
Oh, I'm sick. I'm sick because like I understand like this is the most controversial opinion on the show, and I'll probably be in a Valley Facebook group somewhere if that those exist. In my opinion, Randy Moss is the greatest wide receiver of all time.
Mine too.
I understand the stats with Jerry and everything. If I had to pick one wide receiver to put on my team, I am absolutely picking Randy Moss over Jerry Rice. And it's no offense to Jerry Rice, but
Right.
Randy Moss was a because you get the
Transcending.
same you get the same kind of production, but Randy Moss athletically was just an absolute freak.
And remember now, in college, he returned punts and he
Yep.
returned kicks. So, again, nothing against Jerry, but when we're talking receiver play, when they say who's the best of all time, Randy is always at my number one.
Yeah, and I think you would go. Yeah, I think it's safe to say Jerry would probably be number two, which
Yes.
is why I have to go him at this pick now because I can't because I know you pick Jerry and if you get Jerry and Randy, the conversation's over at this point for offense since you already got Steve. So I'm gonna go Jerry Rice. I don't even know if this needs an explanation. I mean, the stats that he put up in the 80s is
Insane.
just I mean, it's unfair. So I'm gonna go Jerry Rice with my number one pick, man. So I'm gonna toss it back to you, coach, because that one doesn't even need any explanation.
And on the other side of Jerry, just to keep you honest defensively. I mean, on the other side of Randy, just to keep you honestly defensively. There's no doubling Randy unless you want this guy to get off and just, obliterate you. I'm going the 2013 Cooper Cup with 21 touchdowns, 1,600.
Oh
Uh,
man.
just insane. So, yeah, Cooper and Randy are my two guys. And we're saying we're playing 21, well, 11 personnel, however you want to put it. So those are my two up front.
Oh god. I wanted Cooper
Cup and
Cup so bad.
Moss.
And I almost picked Cooper over Jerry. I did because we're just talking college careers.
Mhm.
And man, Cooper put up. I mean, Cooper had arguably one of the Cooper Cup really and truly. If you take out the NFL careers and just blank the names out, had the arguably the greatest statistical career ever for a wide receiver in
Twice,
college.
twice,
I,
two
no, I
years.
mean all 4 years. Coach, he
Yeah,
was
but I
a
mean, two
FCS.
years, he was a
Yeah,
monster.
I mean they couldn't cover him, and I just don't think Cooper even gets enough credit for what he did. Now I'm gonna go here. This is tough because once you get past those three, there's so many insane options. I'm gonna go Terrell Owens
Mm.
at Chattanooga, over 2,300 yards, 19 touchdowns over his career. Listen, man, Terrell Owens is also a freak, and I kind of thought that might be where you went if you paired him with Randy, because who are you covering at that point?
Yeah, I went big, more of a smaller guy, so to speak. I can move around. Uh, but then I had another guy that I thought maybe you would have went with. Uh,
Who
if we
was it? I
wanted
already
to
got
go,
I already got my pick locked in. So who were you thinking I
if
was
we
going
wanted to
with
go
there?
11 personnel now, if we want to go 11 personnel, my two outside guys are going to be Randy and Brandon Kaufman from
Okay.
Eastern as well.
Yeah. Now,
So,
yeah, really and truly, if
he,
you
he put
wanted
up
to,
insane,
if you
insane
want,
numbers.
you could just pick Eastern Washington history wide receivers if you just wanted to create like a legit wide receiver. They've had so many good wide receivers come through Eastern. I mean, ignorant amounts of talent. But I like Terrell Owens. I think I don't know if he was surrounded like, and this is not taken away from anything. When I look at the top wide receivers in the FCS, he was probably surrounded by the least amount of talent.
Oh, no, no,
And
no,
and
no.
so I'm going to Terrell Owens there. So tight end, easy for me. I don't know if he'd be the greatest FCS tight end of all time, but I think his production matched with what else is on the team. I'm going Dallas Goddard
Oh, okay.
from South Dakota State. When you look at his blocking, you look at his receiving, he was a 2-time Walter Payton finalist, 2-time first team All-American. To be a Walter Payton finalist as a tight end is just insane. Coach, back-to-back 1,100-yard seasons, over 21 receiving touchdowns, came up in that South Dakota State tight end room where they can block better than some offensive line units. I like Dallas Goedert's ability to be a wide receiving threat and a blocker, so I'm taking Dallas Goedert as my tight end.
Okay. Uh, I'm going with a guy that I think could be a threat as well in both areas, but really in the pass game. Uh, I'm taking Shannon Sharp out of Savannah State. And that's kind of iffy because I'm not sure of when they actually made that jump uh, to FCS. So my pick might be a little iffy, but Shannon Sharp just because of the blocking aspect and the fact that he could also get out and run routes as well. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Um, do I give that to you? Oh, do I give that to you?
It's kind of iffy. I couldn't figure
I
out. I couldn't get any history
because
on my deal.
Because they weren't in the FCS at that point. So
That's just it. I
just
couldn't
tough.
figure out when they made the jump because I know they were trying to get there. They were trying to get there, and then they finally got there. But I couldn't figure out exactly when they got there. So that's why I went him. A little iffy, gray area, but
yeah, it's tough because I don't know if I can get that one to you because he played wide receiver and he didn't play in the FCS.
Okay, so I'm telling you now, we're basing out of 10 personnel. So take my tight end off. I'm going another receiver.
I'll give it to you. That's fine.
Tremaine Douglas, Grambling,
Okay.
2002, 1,700 yards, 18 touchdowns. Was the absolute terror in the SWAC at that time. Could not be covered. So I'm gonna go Douglas, and we're gonna base out of 10 personnel with the group we got. No tight end.
Coach, this is crazy. Coach, I just want to bring this up. I just want to put this in the people's heads. You coach tight ends, and you just took the tight ends completely out of the equation. You were the tight end coach at All-Core State, and you said, we run it 10 personnel. We don't need no tight ends on the roster.
Yeah, we're going to go 10. Because I couldn't figure out the Shannon part of it. Now, I didn't want to put my guy on there because of the historical, part of it. And I didn't know if everybody would see and understand that, Chuck Griffin's an All-American. He'll come back as a preseason All-American as well. So I didn't want to put him on there and then everybody in the chat be like, oh, this is my, that kind of thing. And then they not look at my roster top to bottom. So, that's where we're at with it. But yeah,
listen,
we're 10 personnel.
The disrespect to your own positional group is crazy on the show right now. I'm dying. I'm crying right now. That is hilarious.
We're good.
So let's go offensive line unit. So guys, we did not want to sit here on the show and pick 2 tackles, 2 guards at the center on the show. It would have taken light years. So we just went offensive line unit. Coach, man, where are you going with this one?
Man, my OL group is the group that got Carson Wentz to become the highest rated FCS quarterback to be drafted. That 2015-16 North Dakota State offensive line unit. They did a little bit of everything. They were really good in the run game, but they were really solid in the pass game as well. So I think that was a no-brainer for me for what we want to do offensively. Guys that can put their hand on the ground and then guys that can also kick step out of there. So that's where we're going with ours.
Yeah, I mean, when I sent this over, I was kind of doing some research on some of the offensive line units that I would consider. I'll just say this. I don't know if I left the state of South Dakota or North Dakota in this search because you could probably pick any of those North Dakota State offensive lines during that run. And you could also listen. I went recency biased. I don't care. I am biased due to recency. I'm picking last year's South Dakota State.
I figured that's where you were going.
I mean, listen, you can say what you want about recency bias and talk about all these legends and that got drafted and all this. Mason McCormick's in the league. Garrett Greenfield's in the league. Gus Miller's about to be a 2-time All-American at center, just won the Remington Award for the best center in the nation. You got a guard in Evan Bernstein who's probably going to be an All-American next year. I think when you look at how dominant they were, led the country against sacks allowed, paved the way for Isaiah Davis and Mark Gronowski. I think that South Dakota State offensive line is as good as any. I would have probably went with that one of those North Dakota State offensive lines too, but just to switch it up on you, I'll just go South Dakota State from last year. Defensive line, I'm gonna kick this one off, Coach. So this was a little bit tougher due to the differences in edge rusher versus defensive tackle. I wanted to get a good mix, and I'm biased as an offensive lineman. I'll take a dominant defensive tackle first because they're harder to find. And I think a guy who could play multiple positions across the defensive line, I'm going Javon Hargrave, South Carolina State for my first defensive line pick. Coach, 63 tackles for loss and 37 sacks over his career. His final 2 years of his career had 13 and a half or more sacks, had 22 or more tackles for loss in back-to-back seasons. The guy is one of the most accomplished players in MEAC history. He was two-time All-MEAC in back-to-back years. I mean, you look at what he did over his career. Look what he's done in the NFL, man. I think Javon Hargrave is the first pick for me on the defensive line.
Okay, so I had to go in a different era right there.
Yeah, I figured, like, let's say you couldn't pass up Hargrave. He was a monster.
Which forces me to, I think, an obvious pick, just because of the damage he did in the SWAC.
Ooh.
Michael Strahan.
Yeah. Oh, you did take my pick, though. I didn't have Strahan on my list, and I thought you were going to pick my guy when you said SWAC. I'm good,
I know who you're going.
Where am I going?
Robert Matthews.
Yeah. Robert Mathis was my second
pick. Robert Mathis.
Yeah,
Robert Mathis.
I'm taking Robert Mathis. You can have Strahan. With my second pick, I'm going Robert Mathis. Like, I'll take Coach. He set the Division I AA record with 20 sacks in a season and 32 tackles for loss and forced 10 fumbles in one season. A freak.
Yeah,
I mean, he put up insane numbers. I'm gonna go with Mathis, man. Alabama A&M legend there on the defensive side, man. Him and Hargrave on my D line, I feel good about. We're getting to the quarterback.
He forced my hand with that one, and then my next one is really tough. But when you look at a kid that put up 20 and a half sacks, man, you know, we're gonna keep it in the SWAC, and we're gonna go with Adrian Hamilton out of PV. Anytime you can get to the quarterback 20 times and plus a half, we're getting pressure. And, you know, Mike can drop inside, he can play the 5, he can play the 7. And then we put Hamilton at the 9. I think we come off those edges and we're pretty good. So I like what we got up front.
You see, I thought you were now an honorable mention would be Jared Allen from Idaho State. I thought that might be where you went. He had,
but he was another one that was kind of iffy for me because I wasn't quite sure of the timeline of them being, you know.
That was the hardest thing about this whole project is figuring out when teams were in the FCS and when they weren't.
Yes.
Because there was so much movement. Coach, you get your first pick at linebacker, which makes me sick because there's two I really, really want. Go ahead, man. Who's your first pick at linebacker?
Yeah, I'm actually going to let you go first. On that one, I got to forfeit the pick. I got to forfeit the pick because, I completely overlooked that, and I got to go back to my chart.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and take the guy who should have been your number one pick. I'm going to go Darius Leonard. Obvious pick here. And also, too, I can move him down to edge if I absolutely had to. But, Coach, 54 tackles for loss, 22 sacks, over almost 400 tackles from the linebacker spot at South Carolina State. There's no doubt. Coach, 6'3", 235, arguably one of the best HBCU players to come through. And on top of that, he number one in South Carolina State history with 394 tackles, fourth in MEAC history. And you look at some of his just performances, man. Look at that. If you remember that Clemson performance, even though they lost 19 tackles in that game, was all over the field, put up another 16 against UCF. And I think Darius Leonard is by far the number one pick here at linebacker.
Oh man, I'm struggling. You snuck
And
that
don't
in on me. I don't know how I missed that one.
and don't default it, because if I get my second pick off before you get a pick in, it's a wrap. Linebacker's going to the good guys over here.
I got to get back to my wallpaper where I had all this stuff put down because I'm talking about, I got I'm legal pad ready, brother. And I'm not sure how the freak did I miss that one. You snuck that in on me. Hold on, I know the clock's ticking. Hold on.
Oh man,
Hold on. Let me
the
see
chat can help
let me
you
see what
out
the chat.
too.
Yeah, let me see what the chat talking about. Hold on. Let me see what the chat talking about.
They're all talking about Shaq Leonard, who's already gone.
Come on, chat. Help me out here. Help me build this. I need a linebacker. The clock is ticking on me. Uh, 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 uh.
If you just want
'Cause
to
I'm
go
about
one
to just.
linebacker, if you just want to go one linebacker a piece, man, I could throw you my second pick. He's a good one. Handing you a lifeline, even though I
Wait on the
shouldn't.
chat. Where's the chat? Come on,
Bro, the
chat,
chat,
before I
the
have to
chat's
give
going,
in.
the chat's going through Google like crazy right now, because I wanted to go number one with this guy, but I couldn't. I had to go Darius Leonard first.
All right, man, give it to me.
All right, coach is going to draft Dexter Coakley from Appalachian State.
He put on a show. I remember the
Coach,
name.
he won the SoCon Freshman of the Year in 1993, and then won the SoCon Defensive Player of the Year award for 3 consecutive seasons. He won the Defensive Player of the Year award from his sophomore to his senior year, and
He was an undersized guy, right?
he was a
Yeah.
3-time consensus All-American, and is the only 2-time winner of the Buck Buchanan Award, where he won it the first 2 years of its existence. Man, there's
Yes.
no doubt that you got to go Dexter Coakley here, man. Coach, he is the
Write him
all-time leader
down.
in. He finished his career with 616 total tackles in 720 tackle games. So, no question that it has to be Dexter Coakley for you at linebacker. Coach, I'm gonna take that first pick of DB since you had to forfeit the
Yeah, I give you
linebacker
that.
one.
I give it.
There's some good ones, man, and there's some legendary ones. So, guys, we separated defensive backs into corners and safeties. And I know some
As
guys
best we
played
could.
both. So yeah, we separated as best as could. And I'm probably going to kick myself for not drafting who I want to. But this guy, just for what he did at the college level, not necessarily his NFL career, is why you got to go him at corner. Coach, I'm taking Rasheem Mathis, Bethune-Cookman.
What year?
Up to all 4. I'm taking all 4 years. But the year in 2002, 14 interceptions in 1 year, still the FCS record. Rasheed, and then on top of that, coach, punt returns, touchdown. He led the team with touchdowns because he was
Yeah.
returning so many interceptions on the team. No doubt. He was also a Pro Bowler. I'm going to take Rasheem Mathis with pick number 1.
I'll give you that one. Yeah, yeah. I got to cross him off. I had him.
And Sam,
That year he had 14.
And Sam, that was my next pick. If Coach wanted to go 2, Dante Olson at linebacker was probably going to be my next pick, by the way.
Yes. Oh man.
So, Coach,
So
you get
I have
second
nowhere
pick.
else to turn. I'm going Bryce Robertson, 2011, Bucknell. He took that thing away 13 times
Oh, you're going to make me
and
happy.
had who's that?
Oh, I do. My secondary set now. Go ahead. Tell me, because you are going to be throwing stuff when you hear my next pick.
Nah, I'm good with it. I'm good with it. Because you threw me on flag twice with the linebacker, and I had Cookman 0-2, Mathis as well. And but the next closest guy to me was Bryce, because he took it away 13 times, double digit PBUs as well. So anytime a guy can take the ball away and defend the pass, I mean, you got to go with him. So being that you took my other guy, I had to go with this one. So that's where I'm at right there. My first pick, Rice.
Coach, they're going to take your SWAT card when I say this name. Aeneas Williams is pick number 2 for me from
All right.
Southern.
Yeah, I'm with you. Great player, no doubt about it.
It got to be Aeneas
But
Williams.
Aeneas is my height. Randy's 6'4". I'm trying to win this game. You know what I mean? So
Listen,
I mean,
when you hear my safeties, we're knocking one of them out of the game.
not at all.
Someone's not making it out with my safeties, but no, it's got to be Aeneas Williams. I think, there's been some great single season performances from FCS players, but Aeneas Williams, man, I don't know how you don't go Aeneas Williams here. I mean, 20 career interceptions, 28 pass deflections, was a 2-time all conference selection. I mean, he's still one of the greatest defensive backs in FCS history. I'm going to go
As an
Aeneas
award named after
Williams
him.
here. Yeah.
As an award named after him. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Um, my
I think I
next
know
one,
where
I'm
you're
gonna be
going
out
with.
in your neck of the woods. I don't think so.
What? I thought you were going. Okay, go
Yeah.
ahead. I'm gonna tell you who I thought you were picking once you finish.
Yeah, I'm strictly looking at the production of taking the ball away. Um, and Justin Ford did just that in Montana in 2021.
Oh,
Purdue.
Sam's about to tear up the chat. You picked this guy because Sam played on that Montana team with Justin. Sam was a
Did he?
wide receiver for Montana. Yeah,
Hey, that guy took the ball away. Um, and the impressive thing about it is, he did it in the cold weather as well. Uh, had double-digit tackles that year. Um, the PBUs came in bunches, but non-INTs, recent 2021. I know we could have went back like you did with Aeneas Williams and that deal there, but I like the numbers that Justin put up. And again, I think the corners that I got, the secondary guys that I got, which are all interchangeable, they take the ball away, and that's all we're trying to do: take the ball.
now, if I had to pick a third one, I would have got my top 3 picks with the way you were going. I was going Isaac Holt.
Now, Isaac was my next guy because
Yeah,
all
he had
corn
to be
ties,
there.
no doubt about it.
Yeah,
No doubt about it. And then he's also a guy that can play on the edge or go in the back. And
and
if you ever get a chance to meet Isaac, you would
I
be
did.
like,
I
okay,
did. I
okay,
met him.
yeah.
I met him at the Soul Bowl 2 years ago. Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
remember who introduced me, but someone introduced me to Isaac Holt, and I appreciate you for that forever, man. Because I got to actually talk to him, and I went back and learned the history of that game. And also, too, Coach, I picked Jerry, so I thought you were going Holt because Isaac is what 2-0 against Jerry.
yeah. Jerry went for a
So
gang of yards, but he beat it. But at the end of the day, he,
yeah.
he won the game, no doubt.
All right, so you get first pick at safety here. And guys, we'll go back through our picks. I know some people are tuning in late saying that, asking if people are on the board or not. Steve McNair was the first pick. I saw someone ask in the chat, first pick was Steve McNair. He's not on the board. Coach, I'll let you start out with safety, man. Who you got first pick at safety? I'm hoping you don't pick either of my guys. I'm throwing my laptop.
Hold on.
Oh, don't tell me you forgot safety to Coach.
No. I didn't forget. I just, with the deal, as we said, like with Mel Blount, not knowing
Yeah.
exactly where he was at that time.
Yeah, Mel
Uh,
Blount is not. Mel Blount was drafted, I think, before the start of Division One AA. Anyway, he was drafted like early 70s.
so we were going to knock folks out for sure, for
Oh,
sure.
I'm still gonna knock folks out. Oh, I'm confident in my 2 picks.
Uh, Hold on. Let me fact check real quick.
You could throw it
There's a
out there.
guy
I
that
got you. I might let you slide depending on how.
nah. Hold on.
In S class, the only
Uh,
reason we don't say Mel Blount, he was not at Southern before they joined the FCS. So that's the only reason he's not eligible. We had
yeah,
players from
and that kind of
1978 onwards.
so that's where my history lesson comes in because I wasn't quite sure of when that whole thing formed. When we're talking about those guys, This is peeing me off.
He's about to default to me. It's about to be a wrap in the secondary.
Talk to me, chat, because my guy, Danny Johnson, who can play either, who played both at Southern and went on be drafted by the Washington Redskins at the time.
Okay.
I like him. I like the speed that we put on with that. And Danny's interchangeable with the rest of the guys. So I kind of like him, even though he's more recent
Yeah.
than the history. But he took it away. He was 4'3". I think he's definitely one of those guys that makes our secondary solid. So I'm going with Danny Johnson.
I love it. You got my guy. Pick one, Rodney Harrison. I don't know. I mean, listen, Western Illinois safety, early 90s coach, still the school record holder for tackles with 345 at the safety spot, had 28 tackles in a game, and was a 3-time All Gateway Football Conference selection, a second team All-American as a sophomore, and then a first team All-American as a junior, and would have had untouchable stats. But coach, he got suspended from the team after his junior year, and instead of transferring or getting back on the right terms, he just went to the draft and ended up being a multiple time Super Bowl champion safety. I'm going Rodney Harrison. One of my favorite NFL players anyway. I'm glad I got Rodney Harrison with my first pick. Toss it back to you, man.
I like it. I'm still checking something here, but I didn't realize he was still the record holder. Like, wow.
Well, you also got to think Western Illinois
man.
has not had a lot of great football players come through. No offense to them, but
no, they've been down. But
yeah. So and also 345 tackles for a safety is just in 3 years is an ignorant amount. That's like
making a lot of plays.
That's, coach, in 3 years, I mean, what? That's over 100 tackles per year at safety.
That's coming down in the box here, brother.
So who are you trying to fact check, man? We'll help you out.
No, I'm trying to figure out if I want to, because I got him wrote down, but again, he's a guy that can go to the nickel spot. He's a guy that can go outside. He can go on the back, and he's recent. But, I have him right here. I like him. We're about speed and taking the ball away.
Okay.
Kobe Durant.
Oh, so you're gonna move him from corner? Okay, I'll let you. I'll allow it. He played corner, but he can play. Yeah, you're good.
The nickel. Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I'm gonna go here, Darren. I'm gonna go Darren Sharper.
Oh,
I told you, I got hard hitting safeties, man. Rodney Harrison and Darren Sharper.
But they're not covered. They're not cover guys.
I don't care. Listen, come across the middle. Come across the middle. Listen, if someone gets ejected for targeting, it's fine. It's Bounty Gate all over again. It's Bounty Gate all over again. Darren Sharper. Listen, he played at William and Mary. Coach, he came to William and Mary as a quarterback. Jumped to defensive back. Coach, he was a first team all-conference pick for 3 straight years and was the defensive player of the year in 1996, which was the year I was born, funny enough. Coach, you said he don't take the ball away. He led the nation with 10 interceptions and still has the school record with 24 career interceptions and holds the FCS record with 468 career interception return yards and has the school record for punt returns.
I'm looking at the chat. Blues team is not loaded. This game is going to be a 50. This game is going to be a 56-40 game, and we're going to win it 56-40. I mean, you got to look at what we're putting out there.
So let me ask you, Coach, do you have a player that you haven't picked yet, or hasn't been picked yet that you would want to put in your all-purpose slot?
Yeah, like I said earlier, Brian Westbrook was my guy.
Okay, I'll let you pick Westbrook. Go ahead.
Yeah, he was a tweener because he could be in the back. He could go to the slot, but he's also the guy that Could be back there with Randy returning kicks. He can go get the punt as well. I think, he's one of the ones I say that put the 1AA thing on the map, so to speak. I think if you did a Mount Rushmore of 1AA football, I think, the debate to put him up there has to be one. So, I
So
like
Brian
him.
Westbrook at all purpose.
Yeah, I like him on
Okay.
that deal, no doubt.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, he was the first player in the history of college football to put up 1,000 rushing and 1,000 receiving yards in one season.
Yeah,
That's
that's what I say.
insane. And then also,
He's got to be a founding father on that deal, no doubt about it.
and he has 41 school records, coach, 13 A10 records, and 5 NCAA records. And coach, I'm so happy. Listen, my team is complete here because I'm going Gordy Lockbaum from Holy Cross at my all-purpose. You're muted.
I remember. I'm not sure why I remember Gordy's name, but
because he's a 2-time Heisman finalist out of Holy Cross. I love it. I absolutely love it, guys. I see no one in the chat put them, and I said it, and people typed who, coach. You are a 2-time Heisman finalist. He played defensive back, running back, and wide receiver in the College Football Hall of Fame. One of the greatest players of all time. You got to go look him up. He played in the late 80s. His senior season, he rushed for over 400, caught over 1,100, and had over 2,000 all-purpose yards while also playing defense, coach. He finished second for the Maxwell Award, which is an FBS award, and was a finalist for the Walter Payton, obviously, and he went to the Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl, and Blue-Gray game. We remember the Blue-Gray game, coach, back in the day before they got rid of it.
Bring it back.
Coach,
bring it back.
He played in all three, and in those games, he played cornerback, free safety, strong safety, fullback, and wide receiver.
I'll take it, though. I mean,
that's all purpose. That's all purpose. If I know all purpose,
him and Westbrook cancel each other out. I'm good with that.
Maybe. Okay,
so you have bigger problems. You have bigger problems.
I don't know about that. So, coach, it's your pick, last spot, and people are probably wondering what position we're talking about. We got to get a head coach. Go ahead. I know who you're picking, so just tell me why you're picking them.
And this is what puts us over the top. Not that we weren't already. The late great Eddie Robinson, not the one that's at Bama State, the original.
Not the one that's at Bama State.
Yeah, the original. I just think, the tenacity, the toughness that he brought, his teams played with. And I think, when you're talking about a leader, you want your team to take over your mindset, your personality, your mental. So I think he's got to be, the coach for this high octane offense that we're bringing to the table, along with this tough up front, give us the ball in the back end defense. So, got to go with that. Got to go with that.
D-Lob said, "You sure you don't want Doc Gamble?"
I'm good on that.
You keep. Shout out to Doug Gamble, man. It's all jokes, but man, that was good.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But I gotta go.
Okay.
Gotta go with the letter.
I'm gonna do this because I have to offer a disclaimer because I got to approach this like a defense lawyer, where even though I know my client's guilty, I got to convince you that he's not guilty. And obviously, I'm picking E-Rob. The one thing that my coach has that E-Rob didn't. E-Rob never won an FCS playoff game. He was winless when his team got to the playoffs. He could never win when he went to the FCS playoffs. He was great in the regular season. He was great in the regular season. My coach didn't have Randy Moss either. My coach, I'm not picking Marshall's coach.
Because he didn't have Wes running that thing. You know what I'm talking about?
That's the only thing. Now, obviously, it's E-Rob, but that my coach at least could win in the playoffs, in the postseason, and win the championships. I'm going Jim Tressel.
Youngstown.
Now, I think there can be an argument made for Craig Bowl, who started that North Dakota State dynasty. There's an argument for Roy Kidd at Eastern Kentucky. Like, there's been some legendary coaches. I'm going with Tressel because Coach Ben, he walked into Youngstown State and turned a program that was not a blue blood program in the FCS, and he is the sole reason right now that Youngstown State is a blue blood FCS program, because they won all those national titles through the 90s. And then on top of that, too, he went to Ohio State and won a national title. Now, I know you're a Florida boy. You can argue if that was pass interference or not. Maybe he wouldn't have won that national title at that point. But
You seen the film.
yeah, listen, Jim Tressel
You seen the
won.
film.
Jim Tressel won everywhere. And what, Coach? If I'm not mistaken, he went to what, 3 national titles at Ohio State too, because they lost to Florida those 2 years.
Yep.
And he
yep,
took
yep.
he took over
I can go with that.
he took over a 2-win Youngstown State team. Coached the next season. They won the OVC, went to the playoffs. They go independent and then go on a run where they make the playoffs for 6 straight years and win 3 national titles with 4 national title appearances. Then comes back in 97 and wins it again.
I'm with it.
So I'm going with Jim Tressel. I think obviously if you have if you get the first pick, you got to go E-Rob, but I think Jim Tressel has a strong argument for number 2. So I'll go with him. And D, listen, I'll say this. I might be young, but I got lucky because I was in my family. There's a lot of people who are like me, very nerdy football guys. You have no, like, when I tell you, and one day maybe, I'll get someone on here who really knows me and how I grew up. Most kids would wake up on Saturdays, Coach, and when they were, 4, 5, 6 and watch cartoons. I'd be watching old football games. I'd never miss a college game day on Saturday mornings unless I was going to play my game. And then in the car, we would have to listen to whatever game was on the radio that day. Listen, all I live, breathe, ate, everything growing up, all I did was watch football. And you can ask my parents, like, they thought something was wrong with me because all I cared about was college football.
But you don't know who Dusty Rhodes is.
I wasn't a big WWE
I don't get
person.
it.
Now I got into WWE a little bit, like in late elementary school, but I never was a big WWE fan, man. I was always
Okay,
football,
now
like
we gotta
NFL.
we gotta move on subjects. We gotta move on subjects because Dusty Rhodes had nothing to do with the WWE. Dusty Rhodes was let's go. I can't believe this, man. I can't believe it. So you didn't watch
I
Kung
want
Fu
okay.
on Saturday mornings? Dr.
No,
Paul
no. Okay, so someone in the chat said it's the 80s. Coach, I was born in 96. Like, what are we talking about here?
Dusty Rhodes is history. Dusty Rhodes is history like Jim Tressel. He is history. He is made up in the fabric of the history of entertainment. Sports.
Okay.
Ric Flair. Ric Flair is Ric Flair because of Dusty Rhodes.
I know who Ric Flair is because Ric Flair was still in WWE when I was growing up. But I'm telling you, like, my sports that I got invested in, I was a big college football fan because obviously in the state of Alabama, we have no professional teams. I watched the NFL, but I really didn't get into it as much as college. NBA fan, for like certain players, like obviously, listen, I'm a Celtics fan because growing up, my favorite player was KG. And when Garnett went to the Celtics, I just kind of became a Celtics fan because I liked Rondo and Paul Pierce, and I became a Celtics fan. A really good year for us this year, by the way. I just ordered my championship merch, another ring for the good guys. I know. I wasn't a big baseball guy either. Like, there were certain players I like, but I'm not a big baseball guy either. So it was all football for me, man. All football. That's why I can talk about any college football because I would just watch whatever. I just watch whatever.
I can too, B, but you had to have something outside of that, dog. Like,
no,
I mean,
that's why I tell people, Coach, COVID shifting me into this profession. I'm telling Coach, I tell people all the time, I have not worked a single day in 4 years since this became my full-time job. I tell people all the time, it feels like I'm unemployed because doing all the stuff we do for SI and this don't feel like work. This is what I'd be doing in my free time. I don't need a vacation. This is what I'd be doing in my free time.
We work for
Talking
SI,
football.
baby.
Yeah,
But
talking
still,
football,
man,
writing about football. Yeah, I'm
SI,
telling you.
man, y'all need to give me my own section to teach because we need to rename this show The Young and the Old because I've lapped you over this 2 year relationship that me and you have. I've failed you because you don't know the history of the sports world and how it changed and why it changed. I mean, yeah, do you know who Charlie Ward is?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's a college. Like I'm telling you, anyone in college football, I got you. But once we kind of get
Ant
out of
Lee,
college football, it's iffy.
the $1 million man,
Mm.
Virgil.
Oh, my chest hurts, man. I'm crying.
Blue, if
Coach,
you don't know
listen.
if you don't know who Booker T is,
Oh, I know who
I'm
Booker T
very
is. Yeah, Booker T. Yeah, Booker T's still in
okay.
WWE. Yeah, like you're
Okay,
good.
he's 5 time.
Um,
He's a 5 time.
yeah. So, Coach, real quick. So we we'll get back to our losing streak topic, but we said we would take fan questions. So listen, if you're in the chat, type in your question, man. We'll do a quick mailbag segment. Anything that requires extensive research, though, me and Coach will move it to next week's show. Give us some time to research, get you guys the proper information. But any quick hitters, we can hit now, Coach. This is regardless of division. When you're asked who is the greatest college football head coach of all time, who do you say?
Man, I'm biased, but
I know where you're
I
going.
think his body of work and you know just where he took that program to and where he left it. Uh, you know, no slight against anybody else, but Coach Bowden did something that will never be duplicated again. When we're talking about 30, 26 to 30 straight bowl appearances, uh, umpteen number of top five finishes, and just having your team ready to play. I think Coach Bowden has got to be uh, in that conversation. If not one, he's got to be 1B.
All right, so hang on. I'm gonna be. I get so much flack for this because I don't even think this is a debate anymore.
Do not
Um,
say Nick Saban.
I was Nick Saban, and it's not even close in my opinion.
And here's why I
Go
will
ahead.
push
I
back
know
on
what's
that.
coming. I know what's coming. It. Go
Okay,
ahead.
as long as you know, we don't even have to go into it. As long as you know.
I know. I know what everyone's gonna say. I know. I get it. And here's the thing that aggravates me about that is everyone's like, oh well, what happens if you strip the talent away? There's not a head coach in history of college football that is one without talent.
I'm
Now
not saying that. That's not
it
my
might
argument. That's what I'm not going to say.
okay. What was your argument then? Because that's the argument I hate because I hear people all the time say, "Well, if Nick Saban didn't have all these 5 stars, it's like who recruited the 5 stars? How is that a negative? Because your coach sucked at recruiting and couldn't get the 5 stars."
No, I wasn't going to say that because you're right. At the end of the day, I don't care who you are. If you don't have the Jims and Joes, uh, in 4 years, you're going to be looking. My pushback to that was literally what Coach Bowden did was on the trail of look at what we've done, what we're building, and you can say the same thing for Saban, but I think there were a lot of underlying, uh, and I don't want to make any accusations, but the
They paying
recruiting was
players.
different. I didn't say that. You said that.
Okay, but I'm just saying. So hang on. So here's my I want a real quick counterpoint. Coach, I went to an
It's
SEC
never been
school.
proven. It's never been proven.
I've covered SEC recruiting. He wasn't doing anything different than what Michigan, Ohio State,
No,
Auburn,
ain't no doubt.
Tennessee,
Ain't
Florida
no
State,
doubt.
Florida was doing.
Ain't no doubt. Um, that's why I say in the era that Coach Bowden put that together, that's what makes him, I think, that guy. Now Saban is like I said, if Coach Bowden isn't one, he's 1A. If Saban isn't one, he's 1A, 1B. You know, I think at the end of the day, when you peel those, you start to peel that onion back, I think it was a lot harder to build what Coach Bowden built uh, as it compared to what Coach Saban built. That's
I'm
just
gonna
me.
I'm gonna say this, and I hate when people say, "Oh man, Saban. If Saban was such a great coach, he would have won everywhere." People
Mm-mm.
forget he took over. He in his
It's
first
different
season
game.
as his first season as Toledo's head coach, won the conference, went 9-2, then went to a terrible Michigan State program, rebuilt that into a 9-win team, but then left for
He's won
LSU.
everywhere he went.
Obviously, Saban's
Yeah.
won everywhere, and then also too, people point to his NFL career. Oh well, if he was so great, he would be good in the NFL. I'm a Dolphins fan. If the owner would have let him sign Drew Brees like he wanted to instead of Dante Culpepper, Nick Saban
Different
might still
conversation.
be in the NFL.
And it wasn't a
Um,
good, it was a hurt Dante Culpepper. It was a
yeah. Oh
Dante
yeah, it
on
wasn't
the
prime Dante Culpepper
Dante.
either.
No,
Yeah.
no.
So, I will say, I just think when you look at the level of dominance he had at Alabama and where that Alabama program was when he got there, because Coach, I'll live in the state. That might have been one of the darkest times of Alabama football ever. And Coach, it took him a single season to get them to 12 wins. He won that national title in '09, and then it was over.
That's, uh, and somebody, I finally got it up, the chat where I can see it. Uh, at times, Coach Bowden didn't have the best team. He had the best team, but the outcome was always wide left, wide right, that kind of thing. Not going to take
Yeah.
that away. I'm not going to hide that. But to quote the words of Steve Spurrier, when we're talking about Nick Saban, and you can go pull the YouTube clip up where he's talking about it. And I know there was a love-hate relationship with Spurrier and Saban, but Saban went to LSU, Alabama, like you said, Michigan State. Those places have always won. Toledo, with the only exception of where a program may have been questionable to for him to turn around. But when you step into Ed Orgeron's shoes with that monster he had at LSU, man, all you got to do is sit back and smoke these and get out of the way. Just let those guys go. And I tip my hat to Coach Saban because he always kept the one piece that he needed in the building, and that was a quarterback. And you know how I feel about that.
Yeah. To me, 7 national titles, 11 SEC titles, won the MAC, 15-time division champ in the SEC in the West. I won every Coach of the Year award, 5-time SEC Coach of the Year. And Coach, we talked last year, that was probably the least talented Saban team he's had in a little while, and still found a way to get into the playoffs.
Come on, B. We know how he found a way to get into the playoffs. I was hoping you weren't going to bring that up.
Yeah, he went on the field and hurt Jordan Travis himself. He called in the favor, and
Well, since we're
I'm
talking
with you.
about that, let's talk, chat. The reason that they say they didn't let them in didn't make any sense. But the reason that we had the SEC roundup, I mean, what was different about what Alabama brought to the table than what they had? Defensively, they were stellar. Alabama was stellar. Offense was shatty. Jordan Travis went down. Florida State's offense was shatty. So, I mean, at the end of the day, should he have really been in the college football playoffs? Your opinion. It's a yes or no.
I, it just depends on what we use. Like, and that's why I said two things can be true at once. What is the actual criteria? Do we want the 4 best teams, or do we want the 4 most deserving?
So, are you saying Florida State wasn't one of the best four?
Not without Jordan Travis. No,
Defensively, they were lights out.
Coach.
What was Michigan? Defensively, they were lights out.
But they were the lights out offensively. You could say what you want about JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy won games, and they had 2 of the best running backs in the country.
I won't. I
And
won't. I
they
won't debate
probably
that.
had the best offensive line in the country. And they had
They
a
weren't very
second
good
round pick at
offense.
wide receiver in Roman Wilson, who killed the
They,
Senior Bowl. They had talent offensively. I get the argument that it was deep. Like, let's just be honest. Coach, does Florida State without Jordan Travis beat Michigan? No.
and that's a 2013
No.
ball game that could
No,
go
no,
either
it's
way.
not. Stop it. That's not a 2013 ball game.
That's not a
Did you
runaway. Are you saying
did you
that
see what they
defense?
did you see what they did to Washington?
Washington didn't have a Florida State defense.
Michael Penix was better than Jordan Travis when Jordan Travis was healthy. What would they have done to that backup?
Washington wouldn't have been on the field with Florida State offensively.
Oh my
That
God.
defense would have had Michael Penix running for his life.
Washington allowed the least number of sacks in the country. Their offensive line
In
was
what
solid.
conference? In what
Oh my
conference?
goodness. Now, listen, I'm not going to take anything away from Jared Verse. He's legit. But I think Washington beats Florida State, especially without Jordan Travis.
I think defensively, everybody plays in that game. Not talking about Jordan Travis, but everybody plays in that game. I think that game is a really good game that comes down to,
Now,
you know,
I will say
having to
this.
make
That's
plays at the
probably
end.
the closest game for you guys. If you guys went and played all four playoff teams one-on-one without Jordan Travis, Washington is probably the closest. I don't think you guys beat Texas. I don't
Hmm.
think you guys beat Alabama without Jordan Travis.
Hmm.
And I definitely don't think y'all beat Georgia with Jordan Travis.
So should Georgia have been in instead of Alabama? Because Georgia did beat.
Now, okay, so you can't put them in because they just lost the SEC championship. But I think Georgia, if you had those teams play 10 more times, I think Georgia wins 8 of them. Georgia was the better team than Alabama. Bama just won that one matchup. And coach, you know this as a coach. Last year, if Alcorn plays Texas Southern 10 times, y'all win 9. It just happened to be that one Sunday afternoon. It was Texas
Oh, no
Southern's one
doubt.
game.
No
I
doubt.
think that's kind of how it was with Georgia. Like, is anyone really think like if Georgia gets in the playoffs? Let's just say we had a 16 playoff. Georgia probably wins the Natty last year. In my opinion, I
Oh
think
yeah,
Georgia was the best team in the country.
yeah. If that was the goal, to have the 4 best, I think Georgia had to be in that conversation.
Okay.
Just because. But we can move on. What's the next question, man? Because I'll talk that all day.
All right, so let's go to these losing streaks. You guys submit y'all's questions in the chat, man. We'll hit those to end the show. We'll try to wrap this up in about 30 minutes. Coach, Hero Sports, our guy Brian McLaughlin, Sam Herder did a great job. They listed the longest losing streaks in the country. So not losing streaks by game, but these are teams that have not finished with above 500 for 5 or more seasons. And the debate was which team is best suited to end that streak next season. All right. So I'm gonna give you the teams that have not had a winning season in the last 10 years. And I want to know, do you think any of these teams could finish with a winning record? Cornell leads the FCS 18 straight losing seasons for Cornell. 2 is Valley. Valley has 17 consecutive losing seasons. Northwestern State has 15 consecutive losing seasons. Texas Southern has 13 consecutive losing seasons. Georgetown has 12 consecutive losing seasons. And then Delaware State, Tennessee Tech, Houston Christian are at 11. Now, I want to give a disclaimer here. Houston Christian did finish with above 500 last year, but it included a forfeit win
From Northwestern State.
for Northwest State. So they technically finished 500. But let's just take Houston Christian out of this because I don't care if it's a forfeit win. They did finish above 500. So I'm going to give them that. So Tennessee Tech, Delaware State at 11, and then Marist at 10 consecutive losing seasons. Which of those programs do you think are going to end the streak first? It's
Man.
tough, ain't it? It's tough.
Oh man. I go with Tennessee.
Tennessee Tech.
Tennessee T, because of the new I'm gonna say the new blood can at least get them to 500 with a swing game in there. Um Cornell, I don't think people really understand how tough that level of play in that
It's
conference
brutal.
is
Yeah.
with some really good players. Uh, Valley, I
It
don't know.
no.
I don't know. Delaware State, I don't know if they've scheduled. I'd have to look at their schedule. I don't know if they've scheduled enough outside of the conference
No.
to help them. Um,
Yeah, there's
and
really
like you
only
said,
one
you took away Houston, Houston C. So uh, Tennessee
kind of
T to me, hey, damn if you do, damn if you don't.
shout out
I
to
think
Tennessee
they've got the
Tech.
best shot. Yeah, I think they got the best shot. I think they have the
So
best shot.
Tennessee Tech got a new head coach. Got
Yeah.
former Old Dominion head coach Bobby Wilder. You know, I'll say this: Timothy's really high on Tennessee Tech next year. We did our
Tennessee,
our Big South OVC preview drops tomorrow, I think. He thinks Tennessee Tech can make a run to the top 4 of the Big South OVC. If that happens, they're going to have a above 500 record. Now they return a lot of talent. Coach Daniel Rickert is one of the most underrated edge rushers in the country. You got Hudson Tucker on that defensive line, Aaron Swafford at linebacker. They return a lot of talent. The question is quarterback. Jordan Potts had a really, really tough year last year at quarterback. I think defensively is going to be good. I think they can find a way to win, be above 500 next year. It's going to be tough though. I will say so shocking ones. So these are teams, coach, that are in between 5 to 9, and there are some shocking names on this list. You got Bucknell and Morgan State at 9 consecutive losing seasons, coach. Morgan State at 9 really surprised me. That's a long streak for a program that seems to always be talked about.
in the hunt. Yeah.
Portland State at 8. Then you got Cal Poly, Lehigh, Northern Colorado, the Citadel, and Wagner at 7. Then you got Charleston Southern, Western Illinois, and Howard at 6. Guys, Howard was just in the Celebration Bowl and has had 6 consecutive losing seasons.
That is absolutely crazy.
And then you got Idaho State, Indiana State, North Alabama, Stony Brook at 5. I will say North Alabama is interesting. I think they're on the right path under Dearman. That's a team that can end their streak soon. Howard shocked me to be on this list. It seems like only a matter of time for them. It's just they don't win their out of conference games, coach. They kind of take.
Yeah.
And listen,
Well,
shout out to
that's
my
what
guy.
Morgan. I said that's what Morgan
Yeah,
too.
shout out to my guy Connell Maynor. They take the Maynor approach. I don't get paid to win out of conference games. We're going to go 1-6 in out of conference games and win our 5 conference games. We'll be just fine. That's the Howard approach, it seems like. I don't see Cal Poly, Lehigh, Northern Colorado, the Citadel, or Wagner ending it anytime soon. I will say Portland State has some potential, but coach, they arguably have one of the hardest schedules in the country. Let me pull this up real quick because, dude, I thought Portland State could be a sleeper this year in the Big Sky just because I love the talent they have coming back. Let me pull up their schedule real quick. Coach, listen to this schedule for them.
While
They
you
would.
pulling that up, let me tell Timothy, don't get carried away with the Tennessee T championship run.
Oh man,
Above 500, but don't get carried away, Timothy.
So Portland State has at Washington State, at Weber State, South Dakota, at Boise State, at Chattanooga, UC Davis, at Idaho State, Montana State, at Sac State, Idaho, at Montana, and Northern Colorado next season.
Bro, what are they trying to build? They got
bro, I was like, God,
they got money games. What are they trying to build? They got some.
It's just, oh God, their out of conference coach is Washington State, who's a good FBS program. South Dakota, who was the 3 seed in the playoffs last year and won 10 games. Boise State on the road, and then Chattanooga, who was in the FCS playoffs last year and is probably the favorite to win the SoCon this year.
Bro, like I said, what are they trying to build? They on that get money tour.
You know, like that might
We
be
ain't
worse
trying
than
to win
Valley's
no
schedule.
games.
That might be worse than Valley's schedule. That is
And I don't
just.
think people understand that schedule that Valley has coming in. Right.
I mean, for
I
people
s-
to understand, like, well, I mean, we'll pull it up real quick. We might have to do a breakdown of like the toughest schedules in the country. I think that'd be a fun topic. But coach, at Tennessee State, at who is a potential sleeper in the Big South OVC, at Lamar, who a lot of people think he compete for the Southland, at Murray State,
new
who
program,
I think
new
that's
new leadership.
probably, I will say that's probably the best opportunity for an out of conference win. I think it is them. At Nichols, who just won the Southland. Then you have Alcorn State come into town. You have at Alabama State. Then you get Bethune Cookman at UAPB, who is a good chance for a win. Then you got PV at Jackson, at FAM, and Alabama A&M to end it off.
Rough as a golf there, bro.
I mean, you guys have a tough opening though, because I mean those two FBS games at the beginning of the season is going to be brutal.
Yeah, it's survive and get to game three.
That
It's
is that
survive
is
and get to game three. You play to
that is
win every
true.
game, no doubt about it. Um, and those, I mean, if you had to have two back to back FBS games, I think those are two good ones to start out with. The worst case scenario, you get two FBS games and they are come directly at you type teams. I think that's where you set yourself up for potential problems when you get to conference because everybody on your team is in the training room. So uh,
Mm.
when you get those teams, those FBS games with those teams that kind of go side to side, that kind of helps you out in the longevity of things when you're talking about your schedule.
All right, let's end it here, man. Our we didn't have any questions that we're gonna hit today, but I see Sam in the chat, and it brings up, we're gonna have to get Sam on the show, man, for the lounge and just talk FCS topics and debate. I'll reach out to him to get that set up, man, soon. But he did a
Hmm.
show, coach, or a segment on his show where he talked about how if you switch the quarterbacks for rival teams, how different would their season be? So some of the ones he hit, if you took Mark Gronowski and put him on North Dakota State, and you took Cam Miller and put him on South Dakota State, how different would the season be?
Because you know how I feel about Mark G. I think those seasons are reversed.
Oh, oh,
I think those seasons are reversed just because of what he brings. And again, I don't know the kid personally, but just being that close on the sideline, seeing him operate from that distance and seeing all those eyes on him, I think that team, there was never any doubt throughout the year. If he said we can get this done, everybody, all eyes on him, felt like they could get that done. So you take him and you put him over there in the green and gold, green and yellow, however you want to put it. I think that reverses, and a couple of those maybe close losses, uh, you don't have those. You're over the top now. Now, the turnover bug that appeared from time to time with North Dakota State, now you put that over there. Are they strong enough to overcome that without that strong leader?
now, and Sam put in the chat, he's personally a very, very big fan of Cam Miller for NDSU. You know me. Listen, I have my reservations. Now, I do think he's a good quarterback, but I question. And Sam's argument is even when he plays bad, he always gives his team a shot. Like he just seems to turn it on at the right moments. To me, it's those lulls where it's just like it doesn't make sense. Where like when you look at, I'm trying like I looked 2 years ago at that Incarnate Word game. Incarnate Word didn't have a dominant defense. 5 for 12, or no 1 for 12 for like 2 yards passing. I
Hmm.
just what where's the disconnect? Like Incarnate Word did not have a secondary that should be shutting down your passing attack like that. I will say, as much as I like Gronowski, it would be interesting to note when I look at, so coach, we know even great quarterbacks have to be surrounded by talent. I'm not saying North Dakota State didn't have a lot of offensive talent. You're looking at a decrease in talent at wide receiver because South Dakota State, you had the Yankee twins, you had the tight end, you had that offensive line. Uh, and then running backs to downgrade, you don't have Isaiah Davis, you don't have Amar Johnson. So the talent surrounding him goes down a little bit. Does that cause any problems for him, or is he able to elevate the talent more so than Cam was last season? And then also too, you look at Cam Miller, what is he asked to do more on South Dakota State? Because when North Dakota State, like Sam said, he didn't really have to throw more than 20, 25 times. Does he have to for South Dakota State, or does it change their offensive approach where they let Cam do more running? Because now Gronowski's athletic, but I think Cam is probably the more twitchy athlete of the two. I would say, does that shift kind of their offensive philosophy there? It would be a very interesting offensive approach for, I think, South Dakota State. Do you do more option? Do you do more RPO stuff and let Cam Miller use his legs to get out of the pocket? That's the question mark. And then also too, when you have that offensive line, if you give Cam Miller all day, what's his ability going to be to push the ball down the field? Because that's where I think he struggled the most, is pushing the ball down the field. But I think over the past 2 years, North Dakota State really hasn't had any elite wide receivers outside of the emergence of Eli Green, who's now not there.
True.
And the other one was this is interesting. We'll end this one here. Clifton McDowell goes to Montana State, and Tommy Mellott goes to Montana.
You know how you know how I feel about him a lot. I think Tommy M is really, really good. A healthy Clifton is also top notch. Man, that one is probably tougher than the other one to me. I think Montana still. I think they take it up a notch.
Okay.
I think Cliff fits that more than Tommy. Would you agree?
Yeah, because the hardest thing about that comparison is how tailored Montana State's offense was to what Tommy Mellott does.
Right.
Because if you just flipped them and you didn't change the offense that Montana ran, Tommy Mellott, I don't know how he fits into that. Now, here's the flip side though. Offensive line's probably a little bit worse. Now, I don't think Montana had a bad offensive line, but it wasn't that Montana State offensive line that they had last year. They had so much talent on that offensive line over the past 2 years. If you switch Tommy, it's a massive upgrade at wide receiver. You got Junior Bergen, you get Aaron, you get Keelan White. I mean, the wide receiver upgrade's massive. But that scheme isn't built for what Tommy does best, which is run. But then here's the other conflicting point. Tommy gets banged up all the time. Tommy's struggled with injuries. If Montana's not running him 20 times a game, does he stay healthy?
Yep.
I do think Montana's still talented enough. I don't think if you move Mellott to Montana, I still think they're good enough to get to the Natty. I don't think anything's different there. Now, the question is if you move McDowell to Montana State, how does that offense change? Because now Clifton's athletic, but he's not Tommy Mellott explosive as an athlete.
Right. He does enough to get out of there, but I think both of them are prone to the injury bug, so to speak. But like you said, if they're asked not to do what they did at the regular spots, does the injury bug show up? I think this one is a little tougher than the last one, but
yeah, way
I
tougher.
I think they both navigate through the first couple rounds of the playoffs. After that, I think it's just kind of a dice game.
Now, I had to ask this before we go. And I won't do all corn because Alcorn Jackson, because that'd be the chat would explode on that one. I want to do Jackson FAMU. And let's take the guy
Ooh.
who started the end of the season. If you took Musa and moved him to Jackson, what does Jackson go and win the Celebration Bowl? And if you took Jacoby and Morgan and moved them to FAM, do they go to the Celebration Bowl?
I don't think.
And remember, you still get Willie as OC or head coach because this is last year. How different would those two teams have been if you switch quarterbacks?
I think Willie can still navigate to get there because he's had that type of quarterback
Yeah.
before. When we won the Natty in 14, we had pretty much the same type of quarterback with John Gibbs, who was a run first guy, could get you out of trouble in the pass game, but wasn't a guy like Musa that would sit back there and just be able to pick it apart. So I think Fam could still navigate to it. Jackson, on the other hand, I think they had that guy with Jason that started the year. A guy that's a true pocket guy. When it breaks down, I don't know if Musa could get you out of any more trouble than Jason did. I think Fam can still do it, but I don't think the school up the street with Musa would be able to do it just because of the dynamics. And I think they had that guy at the beginning of the year, and they ended up going away, and that's how Jacobian came on the scene. My
Yeah, I
opinion.
think I agree with you. I think the defense for Jackson wasn't bad, but I don't think it was consistent. And like FAMU had the better defense last year out of the two teams, especially how they performed on the field. And also too with Jackson, I think there was a lot of moving parts at wide receiver, particularly last year, where with Rico not available at one, like he looked like the best wide receiver, then he went away, then Fabian McCray kind of bounced up. And also too, are we factoring in Irv Mulligan staying healthy, or does he still get hurt when he does? Because I think with Irv, Jackson's potential goes through the roof last year if he's healthy all year. But once they lost him, they kind of had to go to that rotational type of approach. And they had some really, listen, I'm not taking anything away from those young guys. They could ball and they had some good
Oh,
performances,
definitely.
but none of them were Irv Mulligan. And
Yeah.
Irv Mulligan single-handedly won them a handful of games last year when he was healthy and like put them in position to win. I do think it's tough because listen, I think that FAMU staff, what they here's the thing is that is as critical as I've been about Musa, as the chat, as you've been about Musa, as everyone's been about Musa. FAMU knew what they had to do because it was year 2 in that system. If you switch them, now you're year 1 with Jacoby and Morgan. Are you as prepared to build that team around and call the offense around him in year 2 compared to Jacoby in year 1? That would be the one question mark, but I would trust Willie to do it. If I had to pick a staff, I think Willie and that staff would do it. And also, too, I think FAMU was able to lean on their defense. You had Isaiah Major, Anthony Dunn, Gentle Hunt, that secondary led by Kendall Bowler, Morgan at safety or nickel. I think they had too much talent elsewhere. The offensive line was good, and the offensive line stayed healthy for them. Jackson had a younger offensive line that came on late in the year, but early struggled at times as they rotated through people. They gave up a lot of sacks early, especially with Jacobian's inability to Jason's inability to move in the pocket. And like you said, I think Willie could have been. Now, I'm not saying that Musa is a bad quarterback or anything. I think Willie would have been able to be more creative with Morgan because of how
Oh, yeah.
athletic he is compared to
The
Musa.
run game. Yeah, the run game would have took off. The
Yeah.
RPO game would have been different. Like I said, you can go back and look at the 2014 Alcorn offense, and I think that's what it would have been with a Morgan, just because that's in Willie's wheelhouse. I don't know if, again, I think Musa was the same kid as Jason, probably just a little bit better
Yeah.
at times with the ball. But I don't think they can navigate the way that Fam would have been able to navigate with that switch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Jackson probably ends up about the same, 7-4, 8-3 maybe.
with a loss in the Soul Bowl to Alcorn.
That's fair. The one game that I don't know what it would have looked like, the Alabama State game for them, maybe there's is the
Mhm.
flip game if you add a win for them. Because I don't think they're beating Texas State. Obviously, they're probably not beating FAM if you switch to quarterbacks. And they're probably not beating you guys either. So yeah, maybe 8-3, 7-4, somewhere around the same record. I think FAM still gets to the Celebration Bowl, and I kind of agree
I
with Ed in the chat. I think FAM blows out more teams. I don't know if you see them struggle early against Valley and see them struggle against Texas Southern and stuff like that.
Yeah, because you can lean on your quarterback run game within your offense a little bit more
Yeah,
and not be uh, not that they were one dimensional, but not be one dimensional in your play calling, meaning that you can now call uh, a play with several different options and know what
yeah,
you're going to get either way.
I agree. But man, great show, an hour and a half on Saturday morning, man. This is gonna be the norm. You guys know you can catch us at 11:30 every Saturday morning from now on. Listen, I saw his DM. We're gonna get Sam on the show soon, Coach. Man, I'm gonna get with him. We're probably going to do a lounge episode. That way, we don't even have to pick topics, man. We just talk about whatever FCS topics, HBCU topics, his career. We go the whole nine, and do that. Also, working to get a head coach on soon for the Coach's Corner. So stay tuned for that, and we'll be back with more live streams next week, man. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff, man. But for Coach Fred, for myself, for the Blue Bloods FCS Football Central, man, we are out for right now.